What drama holds SSRL in Singapore? What will happen tonight? Only one way to find out. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Round 2, Division 2, Season 7. And we are back in Singapore, of course. Lots of drivers failing to finish in Division 1. Will we see a repeat of what happened last night? Of course, we also have Herman, the podium sitter from last night. He'll be giving us some insight throughout the evening. But first and foremost, just to remind you, after this week, we are off to Japan. So this is rounding out our double bill of SSRL action. And then we're off to Japan next week, followed by the United States. We'll be off to Austin. And then the week after, into Mexico, followed by a short hop into Brazil. Then in Italy, we go off to back to Europe, then back into the Americas, then another trip over to the Middle East with Qatar, and then, of course, Abu Dhabi with potential finale being in Miami, but then there might be the Mystery Grand Prix as well. We'll need to double check when I get the chance. Now, of course, we're still missing some information. I will gather that up as the evening goes on, but first and foremost, I think we need to say hello to a certain someone, because as I said, in the commentary box tonight, we have podium sitter from last week, lots of insight, but also an F125 breaking point specialist, and also just an all-round great dude. Herman the German, good evening.
Good evening, Dave. How are you? Good to see you back for this probably very chaotic race. There was also lots and lots that has happened yesterday, and some of it happened around me, which was I had the best seats in the house for some of these incidents, including one where I was involved myself on lap 5. And I'm expecting a spectacular race, but I'm still hoping we're going to see more finishers tonight.
I agree with that one. I mean, 19 drivers started, 12 finished. I mean, that's obviously a headache for the admins. And I think just for their sake, hopefully they could get a bit of a rest tonight. And we'll obviously hope that things don't quite spiral as out of control as they did in Division 1. But of course, one thing I wanted to kind of start by saying is, if you'll just give me a minute, of course, I want to dedicate tonight's commentary to a friend of mine. I won't sort of name any names, but they've just gone through a bit of a hard time recently. And, of course, this one is for them. And we, of course, I hope everyone will join me in wishing them all the best. But, of course, without their positivity, their influence, and just their personality, I wouldn't have even considered commentating as even something I would do. So this one goes out to them. But Herman, how is Singapore in the wet? What makes it different from Baku? Of course, what I kind of noticed is that, the white lines are much further out from the barriers than they would be in Baku. Is that something you noticed, or in the wet, it doesn't really matter? A wall's a wall at the end of the day.
Yeah, obviously in the dry you always try to look for maximum track width in terms of entry, especially on some of these corners inside of the second sector. You can really see how a newbie on this track would struggle to maximize corner entries compared to someone who is experienced. I have to say, in the wet, it was really tough, and that was also part of my strategy, why I skipped the quali yesterday. I wanted to focus solely on the dry setup and the dry pace, because, obviously when there's a chance that also the race could be in the rain, I was going to take that. But since it was one of my favorite tracks, and still is, I wanted to make sure I have a good race, even though qualifying would have been, I think, top 10. Not so sure if I remember times from yesterday correctly, but still a lot of work I wasn't so keen on to put in. And compared to Baku, I think the most interesting difference is that you are on the high downforce level already. Like, you didn't need to compromise on especially the exits, where you kind of needed rear stability and rear downforce for Baku to make it out of these 90-degree corners, and obviously the caster section. Here's just what kind of balance you want from the car, especially tire pressures make a huge difference compared to the dry. And then after that, it's just how much front wing you really want extra on top. If you want to go to full 50, are you willing to sacrifice some on the rear to maybe have good or better opportunities to pass on the straights? And obviously, always keeping in mind if you have bad exits, you're not going to do anything on these straights because most of the time, 90-degree corner before passing opportunity makes overtaking hard, which is the case of 3 out of these 4 DRS zones, and only the one leading to turn 7 is really great. So yeah, there's a bit of bigger difference compared to the normal tracks, and even regarding the city and the walls of these 3 tracks.
And also, I mean, I'm just on top of all of that. I guess one driver that really has impressed me in week 2 so far is actually the driver I'm observing right now on the broadcast, Salvi88 here. Absolutely amazing job in qualifying last night. Of course, I think he qualified once the session had concluded 10th place, and then I think, off the top of my head, finished either 8th or 9th. But either way, Salvi, the debut season here in SSRL. And you know what? Since week 1 into week 2, he's already made leaps and bounds. Herman, he's one of the ones to watch going forward. He's the one that's up and coming in this league. Don't you agree?
Yeah, it's showed some strong performances already, but I think there needs to be more fine-tuning. I think when we first saw Bevish launch into our little league racing universe, there was also some potential, but like there's something that makes these drivers like a raw diamond where they need to be putting work and obviously some experience on the board to make sure if they haven't already before, as ADS just completely loses it out of turn 9 into the barrier there, no front wing on the left hand side. That is certainly going to be repairs. You really need to find your groove with the drivers, and obviously all of the gimmicks we are running in SSRL need to be towards your liking, so you actually can commit to something. And if you don't commit, sometimes that can cost you like 10% of performance, and then you can easily go down 5 or 10 places in quali or even in the race. And especially track limits will always be a thing. He sets the fastest time for now as he first across the line. And his reserve teammate Rolly is about to start his first flyer as well, as we've already concluded the first 5 minutes. He's one to watch, but he's still a bit rough around the edges, and Moksha goes faster by 6/10. And I think he can and will improve, and obviously, depending on how much he likes these tracks and on side of our season, there will be probably chances for good top 5 finishes, maybe even a podium here in D2. And he looks to be set already very comfortable inside of this first idea of very difficult street tracks, and it's going to be getting a bit more easy in terms of the overall drivability of the circuits. And he's certainly one that will be fighting for best of the rest of what we have currently on the field.
At the moment, 6 drivers currently completing their outlap. Danger David back with us for another night. Failed to finish in last night as Trugster now is the 7th driver to set a time. Few coming behind him there. But at the moment, Pleasant Snake setting the pace. He, of course, took pole position. No, he didn't take pole. Well, no, he took pole position, but failed to finish. Failed to convert that into a win. He actually ended up finishing 3rd, while Race Chase there, despite qualifying in 3rd, had to settle for 7th place after Tabran and Moksha's penalty were removed. So that meant Race Chase, despite finishing 5th, had to then settle for post-race 7th. So Race Chase looking to hopefully make a recover there. Of course, he's also been one of the drivers on the up and up. And let's see if he can keep that going tonight. As Salvi again goes into the 148, some more representative time. He lost he lost us 1.2 seconds going through 16 and 17. Of course, messed up at the second part of that corner. Just the entry was all wrong into the second part, and now is top of the timing boards. One I would like to see, though, is Danger David, of course, looking to rectify what happened yesterday. And one of the weirdest DNFs we had was actually going into the pit lane, where I think it was Andrew who messed up the entry.
Yeah, that was
and then
that was interesting.
Yeah, and that ended up disqualifying Andrew and Trugster. And Herman, any sort of insight there? Is Energetic to the top of the timing boards there?
Yeah, I think he shared a clip, and he he messed up the downshift. He was in neutral, and then that obviously also means, because the car is like power driven on the rear, like the engine is in the back, that always means coming like if you still are on the throttle, there's still power coming on that downshift, and then you just immediately spin. And this is also why, if you, for example, go into neutral on Monaco in the hairpin, if you go to neutral there, the car just basically does a full 180 on yourself. That obviously helps with rotating, which was funny in the 22 game, where you would downshift to neutral for a moment, immediately upshift, and the car had more rotation. But in this year's game, it means that you immediately spin around, and obviously he was kind of T-boned between Truckster and the pit lane entry wall on the right hand side, and then since they couldn't really untie themselves, there was immediate disqualification because they blocked the pit lane entry. There's like, usually if you stop on track 10 seconds and then you will be disqualified with a warning, but if you just blatantly in the pit lane for like longer than 3 seconds, I would assume, you're just going immediately out of the session. And that's what happened yesterday. And I think there's nothing on trucks that even if he would have reversed, he was still blocking the pit lane himself, and he just couldn't react in that time, and with that space that was between them, because they were very close together. And yeah, looked very funny if you saw it for the first time, and obviously it's something you don't want to repeat coming the next races. And yeah, quite so, and rightfully so. Andrew was quite upset about himself, but still funny nonetheless.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it was more of a shocking commentary, of course, as you could imagine. But certainly no driver will be wanting to repeat that. So one must not shift into neutral is the advice to take away from there. Of course, inspired by Truckster's very famous "one must have 4 wheels to finish" from Baku. But anyway. 3 drivers, beg your pardon, still yet to set a time. Surabo with the slowest of the bunch so far, 1:58.3. I don't think that was a representative, but then again, I'm never quite sure with Surabo. He's definitely more off the pace in this division, and has definitely it's one of the drivers that really needs to fine-tune his work, and that, I don't know how he would overcome something like that. And of course, I will pose the question to Herman in just a moment, but I really wanted to stay with ADS at the moment. And also, looking at Race Chase as well. He's on an outlap in that Racing Bulls. ADS just going through turn 14 now. Just going to go through the kink of 15. Just that small left-hander through here. It should be flat, even with 4 wet tyres. It indeed is. No lift there. Let's see where he breaks. Drivers taken to about 100-meter board, and the Ferrari even does that. And ADS almost parks it there, but that's what you have to do in these wet conditions. And at the moment now, just going through 18 and 19, he can't really take that as high speed as he would like in the dry. Of course, the race will be a bit different, and that is only 13th place there for the Ferrari. Now, talking about Surabo, Herman has kind of showed that it's not quite on the pace. He's always been kind of towards the back of the field. What can you do with a driver like that? Like, how can you say to him, right, you know, there's work to do here. Like, where is something you would start if you were ever, like, you know, coaching Surabo from a driver's POV, as we see Energetic have a great drift out of turn 4?
Yeah, Silber's interesting. I think I must have been like at the start of this year or something, where I read he was like someone as well, like we have discovered already with Iron Ghost and Trackster, that is in his 50s and is basically consumed by his job and his other hobbies, and is just purely racing for the fun of it, which is gonna be hard when you also have this wet qualifying and you don't really, if you don't ADS crashed it.
Oh,
that's
dear.
Turn 10.
Oh dear.
As Quincy just went to the top, his teammate binned it. Must be Ferrari strategies coming towards you in a Singapore street race nearby. I think there is gonna be only getting to grips with the game while playing it, and if you just turn up for the league races, which to me it seems he's only doing. I don't have it on PlayStation because I'm on PC, and I can't really see if he's playing anything else than that on his free time. So basically, you need time on the game to be in the rhythm, and consistency comes with the rhythm. If you play the game, you always stay in this sort of like space, and your muscle memory grows over time. Like even if you don't have the raw pace, always staying in the thick of it is gonna help you. And I don't know how much Saibo has time to do that, or is in general willing to do. But yeah, for example, from what I can see now watching his lap, he's just on the overtake for too long. He's inside of the corners with overtake. That's never helping. There's just too much rear spin, and obviously setup is a big thing. If you just went for the high downforce one, that's fine here. But yeah, for example, for the tricky situation in Baku where you kind of need some compromises, then if you don't know what you're doing, you're gonna be at the back, and that's like easy 2 or 3 seconds you can find while just adjusting this. And the last tenths or maybe hundreds are just when you find bigger steps before, then you will be there. And he has one of the biggest leaps forward you can probably assume from in terms of improvement. The rest are looking for maybe a second at max if you look at the midfield, and sometimes obviously at the front it's close, so a tenth can determine if you're third or first. So yeah, I think these guys are, especially at the back, are just looking for finding what works for them, and obviously having the groove and the idea of what the setup can do and shouldn't be doing. And yeah, he's just not really using his tools to perfection. A lot of ES still use, not using it on the straights. For example, still using hot lap in quali isn't the best idea. That was last year, for example, the best opportunity. You maximize exits and traction with ERS on none. So there's just more basic and meta things he is probably not aware of, which, as I said, is totally fine, judging by he's probably spending his time. But I think 1 or 2 tweaks could make a big difference as Energetic jumps to the top with 3 minutes 30 to go on the clock. And yeah, Sebo is just obviously need to find something that is consistent, not upsetting in terms of the car, so he's having the same feeling every corner. He's pushing the car even on higher tire wear, and then after that you just finish races, and that is his strongest point, with basically almost 0 penalties, and he's just getting some points finishes off a lot of people who are quicker. And if we see a race like yesterday when 19 started and only I think 11 made it, then
Wow.
he's good for points, even if he's a lap down or 2. And yeah, we still don't know if it's raining in the race, then it's going to be tougher for him. But it's still not a sprint, it's always like an endurance. And you just need to make sure you kind of do the 45 minutes in one sitting, basically, and then just make it to the end. And he can do that. That is the strongest point.
Yeah, sorry, just to correct Herman there, it was 12 drivers that actually finished that evening. Kovachka was the one that rounded out all the 12 drivers. But, like, you know, obviously, we've got to a sort of respect, like, you know, people do have lives and spend their own time in their own little way. With 2 minutes to go, though, in qualifying, Tabran has made his way up into 3rd place. Just looking to see if he did actually join us last week. He qualified 7th place, so he is up by 4 positions. But with those 2 minutes to go, he does have a... wait a minute. Wait a minute. He's broken a rule. He's got on the intermediates.
Oh, yeah. Sure.
Oh, no. Oh, dearie me. Someone's off to the treehouse. They must go. E-I-E-I-O. And, well, they're in trouble. They're in trouble, Herman. What's the penalty for intermediate tires?
And that's a disqualification. But let's talk about maybe Salvi's lap next, because he's currently in the hunt inside of the Red Bull V-Cup slipstream, and he was a second up. Let's see where his maybe final lap can put him, and he is into 5th position on a very strong 47.1. And he's probably trying to go again, but that was very wide on the exit, so there's not enough time to go over the line again. So if he wants another lap, he needs it now, and Trucks is the first one to break into the 45s here, as the Red Bull is on top for now. And let's see who's next. Is Pleasant Snake already in the hunt? No, he's inside of the 2nd sector, so that must be Skid Solo, who jumps to P12.
There we go, Skid Solo with a great time. Of course, he's a bit in a similar situation to Sir Ribbo there. Of course, these two were teammates last season in the Kick Sauber, but have both gone their separate ways into separate teams this evening. Now, a bit of a repeat from last week, I think, is Big Bruiser. Did not actually set in a time in qualifying again. So I think he's kind of hoping that he's doing a U from last night and he's going to find his way up the field when we go to the end of the race. Stranger things have happened in SSRL. Of course, Truckster to the top of the timing boards. But, you know, we're not too far off of last night's times either. We need 1:45.8, and then we are about there. So Truckster is in the right ballpark. As we see, Energetic, I think, is coming to the line for his to complete his final lap. He won't get time to set another as he goes very wide there through turn 16.
He wasn't really much faster. Let's see, final 2 turns as we are near to the last seconds of the clock. Let's see if he found something in the last sector. No, he did not. He is at maximum second for now. Next is gonna be Salvi again if he actually did take the time to complete it, but looks slower. 7/10 inside of the first 2 sectors. Race Chase is out as well. There is an invalidation on his lap time. Next across the line would be Truckster. Second, again slower. So might look at Pleasant Snake next in terms of positioning and who is going to be fighting for the top, but the next Aston Martin will be his teammate, currently situated in 15th position. Has half a second on his delta, it seems, and there is still a bit of the lap to go. Final 2 turns, 18 and 19, needs to stay on the track, don't run wide, use a bit of the airs at the end, and he jumps by 6/10 into 13th position.
12th place, Toby to the line, up to 11th place there, as then Quincy to the line with a 1:45.9, 1:46,000 separate the top time, but now we need to keep an eye on. There's Vincenzo to the line now, doesn't quite beat his personal best, but now the other Haas, that is Rowley, A1881 to the line, that is 10th place, so he's into the top 10 as Moksha then comes to the line and beats that rather quickly. At the moment now, is Tabran on the lap? No, invalidated.
Snake is next.
David is next, then it will be Snake. David to third, but Snake, what has he got? Pole position last week. Can he do it again this week? He can!
No!
At a 1:45.809, that beats Danger David's time from last night, a 1:45.890. That is a low 1:45.809. Pleasant Snake might be up for promotion, Herman.
Yeah, if he could do Mondays, he would be raising in Division 1, but he can't, and that's why he is just farming some pole positions. No, I'm kidding.
We are just waiting for Rendog to complete the pit stop process, but that is qualifying concluded. All drivers have set their lap, and that it will be your grid going into this. ADS, sadly, the only one to crash out, but he will start from 17th there. Probably not what he would have wanted. And Big Bruiser again, not setting a time for I think it's the 2nd week in a row. I'm just going to check that for you now as the session does indeed conclude. But there you go. Well done to Pleasant Snake there. 2nd pole for the 2nd week running. And he is going to be very chuffed about that, of course, looking to take the Division 2 title. So, your final qualifying results coming out of that 18-minute session is Pleasant Snake, Truckster, Pleasant Snake, Quincy, and Truckster rounding out your top 3, with 4th and 5th being David and Energetic. To Bran, facing disqualification, 6th place for him. Then it's Salvi and Vincenzo, Moksha, and Race Chase rounding out your top 10. Then 11th to 15th is Rolly, Toby, Rendog, Schizzolo, and Kavachka, with Talcangino, ADS, Cerebro, and Big Bruiser rounding out your 19 drivers. And the only driver not to set a time, Big Bruiser, with ADS crashing out at the early minutes of the session. Herman, I just need to do one thing before we do go into the race, because I didn't bring up the driver standings, and in fact, those are the old ones. So please ignore that. So I'm just going to do that very quickly. But Herman, I guess you should get started with your predictions.
Oh, it's raining!
Oh, boy!
It's raining in the race!
It's gonna rain in the race. And, well, I will just before we go into your predictions then, I just want to say, my first ever commentary was back in Season 2. It was round 2 where I first got introduced to these drivers, and it was a carnage of a race. Only 11 drivers ended up finishing that race, and there was lots of big crashes, and then wet weather got involved, and I think that was a day of 4 safety cars, if I'm not mistaken. If I am wrong, though, please do correct me, but that's certainly how I remember it. But Herman, I'm sure you have something to add on to that, and then we'll get into your predictions.
Yeah, that was the first infamous pit lane incident after yesterday's also from myself, where I just went too early and got disqualified. But yeah, that's certainly still one heck of a race. And yeah, one thing I wanted to add, because we were on the topic of Sable quickly, I think Big Bruiser even is there before that. I think he got a new wheel recently. It was interesting to see if, yeah, after his connection issues, if he could like sort these things out. Not sure why it's not clicking for him right now and why he's not even trying to set a lap time. But if I would give advice to our bottom two for the qualifying, I would say just try to drive a bit regularly if you want to compete in league races. You don't do yourself a favor by just, yeah, how is there some motivation, or what is your like target there to, if you don't even try a lap, then you can't see if you're improving. You can't see what kind of things you're experiencing. You are just very unprepared, and preparation and knowledge is very key. But yeah, I hope if he hears that, there's some things he may say about this, and hopefully we maybe even as a community can help, because if someone is getting faster, obviously competition is going to be more interesting for us, not only inside the server but also from the spectator's point of view. I'm just gonna give this to the prediction game now. If you're good to go, or are you still looking at the standings?
I will just need to go through the standings just very quickly, but I'll make this rather quickly. This is not going to be too long at all. So, just so that you know, top 5 at the moment going into tonight: Energetic, Quincy, Snake, Salvi, and Moksha, with Tabran, Race Chase, Kavachka, Toby, and Rolly rounding out your top 10. Then it's Tarkagino, Skid Solo, Ubo, ADS, followed by Fellow Sun or Mr. Cloudsan, with Crankjog, Rendog, Trugster, and Quan rounding out your drivers. Then for your constructors standings, it is Mercedes, Ferrari, and Aston Martin rounding out your top 3, with Williams and Haas rounding out your top 5. Then from 6th to 10th is McLaren, Racing Bulls, Alpine, Red Bull, and on no points as of tonight, Kick Sauber. Last time in, that is not correct. That is not the right track. Oh, goodness me. This is an absolute disaster. Let's just do this very quickly.
You are allowed to have off days as well, Dave. Don't you worry.
Anyway, in Singapore, last time, Season 5, I think this is, yes, Division 2, at a length of nearly 5 kilometers, which rounds out to about 3 miles, I do believe. The winner here was Andy Andre, with Fellow Sun in 2nd, Moksha in 3rd. 4th was Danger David, with top 5 rounded out by Jolly Boy John. Your driver of the day went to Toby with the fastest lap to control, a 1:28.815, and that was also a wet qualifying, hence the 1:38. But there we go, Herman. Let's, without further ado, play our little prediction game. Herman, you may go first.
I always write down mine first, so I'm just gonna give them to you, Quincy, to take the win. I think I don't know how much practice Snake has in race conditions in the wet. That's gonna be interesting. I think Quincy has plenty of it. Energetic 3rd, Chuckster 4th, and I think David is gonna be finishing inside the top 5 tonight.
Okay, well, so my top 5. Let's have a quick think. If I go into the race director, I can actually find out who starts where. There's a bit of a cheeky strategy I can use. Well, of course, let's just have a think. So, just looking at the points here, I'm going to sort of base my predictions off of a bit of data. I do think Salvi is going to find his way into the top 5. So, anyway, oh, we've got a warm-up lap happening. Oh, yeah, this is awkward. Okay, I'll tell you what, can we come back to that mid-race, Herman? I'll just go through the grid one last time for those that have just joined us.
I hope they're still alive then.
Anyway, jumping into the formation lap music, we have Pleasant Snake on pole position, followed by SSRL Quincy in 2nd place. 3rd is Trugster with 4 life stage David. 5th place, Energetic, with Tabran rounding out your top 6 with a bit of a murky conditions though. He set that time in intermediates, might be facing disqualification at some point. Salvi in 7th place, Vincenzo in 8th. 9th is Moksha with Race Chase rounding out your top 10. He'll be hoping for a few more places to gain. 11th will be Rolly. Toby will be in 12th. Rendog 13th. 14th for Skid Solo. For top 15 rounded by Kavachka. Then it's Tarkagino in 16th, ADS in 17th after crashing out in qualifying. He's also hoping for a few places to move up to. Turbo 18th, and Big Bruiser setting no time at all in 19th. But as I was going to say, my top 5, I don't think I'm going to change it. I think I'm going to say Pleasant Sake, Quincy, Trugster, your top 3. But the only difference I'm going to make is Danger David 5th and Salvi in 4th place. So that's my top 5 for you.
Damn, no one of us had energetic last time, and none of us is having him this time on the top step. But at least I got him into top 3. I'm curious, after we talked about them, both in length at least, I don't know why it was on the full wet. It doesn't even look like full wet rain. So he's gonna be at a disadvantage because you don't even see these tires usually in a full wet qualifying session. We just mandated it to be because it's more interesting, and obviously since the tire, as in real life, doesn't see any real use, because if one is a bit scared of rain, or at least heavy rain, especially in Spa, you don't see these full wets inside of the game, and they are just a bit of extra weight as they come around into the final 2 turns, apart from Big Bruiser, who's still struggling to get the car pointed in the right direction at some stages. Interested to see how long the rain is going to be. Usually you can do 2 stints at this race distance, and then you're just going to be fine with 1 stop. Other than that would be very surprising. I've seen 0 stoppers before. We have seen 0 stoppers before. Let's see what this race brings for us tonight.
One last question you must answer quickly. With Big Bruiser taking a while to come to the line, does this cool down the tyres?
Yeah.
Okay then. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 red lights. It's going Singapore. Who got the better start there? It was weird for quite a while. I think Quincy has gotten alongside Snake there into the first corner. These 2 championship rivals into turn 1. They go side by side, but Quincy loses out big time there. Salvi already up onto Brown, or at least fighting. He's going round the outside of the McLaren. Now I think he's got that done. No, he did not. Beg your pardon. So Salvi will remain 7th. Lots of swaps. Kovachka up 2. ADS and Targantino fighting for 16th as well. But now in the background we have Rolly. There's a lot of side-by-side action in the midfield. Red Dog losing a position, of course, thanks to Kovachka's climb. Now Toby trying to get into 11th place, does that successfully. And now coming into Memorial Corner, turn 7, it's still side-by-side between Toby and Rolly. Toby pushes off the Haas driver, and now that allows the Williams to get through for another position round the outside of turn number 8. Can he convert that to the inside for the next corner? I think he just about can, but it's gonna be... Oh, that was nearly in the barrier. That's Pleasant Sake coming back to the lead of the race, has checked out, and Rolly was able to keep 12th place there. Some good fighting, but now Kovachka's coming back again, but nowhere to go that time. Rolly will shut the door on the Williams driver, and he'll continue to look forward. But Pleasant Sake, what a great first lap so far. 1.3 seconds to Quincy as we have Big Bruiser in the wall in the background.
I was looking at Mokcha's start. It was very conservative. Everyone around him seemed to be focusing a lot on how and when to brake, especially with these extended braking zones into the first turn. And obviously that's a very short run still from the first 2 rows into the normal, I would say, braking zone you would do on this lap. And there's another off for Big Bruiser. Let's hope he keeps it going. No VSC, please. And that is the case. So yeah, the midfield was tentative, but obviously it's a long race. You don't want early front wing damage, especially if this rain could continue throughout the whole race. And there's maybe, as I said, only 1 stop maybe inside of this race. Let's see how we can move forward from 9th currently as we are heading into the 2nd lap of this race.
Big Bruiser again is still struggling to navigate the circuit at all. These wet conditions not favoring the... I think he's an American driver. I could be wrong.
Yeah,
he is an American driver, right. So not favoring the American, but at the moment he's going to try and continue on. He's 32 seconds away from Sir Hippo. That is a significant gap in just a single lap. And that might, well, if that was FIA rules, he would be disqualified on the spot, I'm afraid. But anyway, we're going to continue on because those rules do not apply to this league. And it's in its own little universe, as Herman also rightfully points out. But at the moment, top 5 has remained as they are. And, well, everybody has kind of remained as they are, apart from, obviously, Kavachka up 2, Toby up 1. Down a place is Rendog, with 2 going to Skid Solo. Well, 2 going against Skid Solo, beg your pardon. And then only 1 against Rolly there in the Haas there. So, apart from that, not much movement. Certainly a much calmer start than it was last night. But then you can say that not for Big Bruiser, has brought out another yellow flag. Well, it looks like it's going to be a very, very difficult 31 laps for him, as we've already mentioned. But ADS as well, not being able to climb through. He's one of the closest drivers to his current battle, and at the moment, that's the fastest lap for Quincy, 146.5. But at the moment, Herman, if you're ADS, what are you thinking? I mean, you were in this position last night. Obviously, it was dry conditions, so there is a bit of nuance there that is going to be missing. But for ADS, what has he just got to do just to try and make positions?
Yeah, obviously early on some things already happened inside of the first couple of laps, but overall you just need to find your rhythm. Don't worry about like how much or how fast you actually need to make moves, because you can easily get someone that is maybe on a slight lockup into maybe turn 7, 8. Then they need to take the emergency exit and just lose a lot of time. Obviously, momentum is a huge thing. So try to focus on maximizing exits. Try to work with what you have inside of the car. You can adjust some things, especially brake bias can help a lot. And obviously, keep your rears in a good condition so you always have good traction. And if you manage to preserve these, you will have a good end of the first stint, assuming it's going to be a one-stop. And obviously, if there's any change in weather, be always on the lookout for that. Keep asking your engineer. He's also, even to contrary belief, helpful in these situations. If you ask about how much more of this weather is there going to be, or tire status is also very interesting for changeable conditions. So be patient. Obviously, you can't overtake 10 cars in one lap, but sometimes you can make 2. And if you have clean air, for example, that also helps with your performance, especially if you try to undercut or overextend at some stages. But keep it on the black stuff and have a calm first couple of laps to the race, and then see how it evolves. Since we are having a very long race here tonight, with one of the longest races in terms of time, and obviously the rain is going to delay that by even more. So just have the longer breath here. Just take it easy, as you might say.
Here we go. Salvi is beginning to set up a move for 6th place. Tabran is forced into a defensive move. Of course, his qualifying is a bit marred as he used intermediate tyres. You have to use the full wets in qualifying. It is one of those little quirks, we like to say, in Silly Season Racing League that makes this league so unique from all the rest out there. But at the moment, we are currently seeing a great battle. But at the moment, I think Salvi might be a little frustrated with Tabran, considering he could have been battling for what is the top 5 there. And he is in for my top 5 in this prediction. And here we go again, as now caution. And Big Bruiser has crashed and brought out the first safety car of the evening, Herman.
Yeah, that was one too much for him, I would assume. Or especially for his car, he had some damage before, repaired it, and then went back out again. I'm currently looking at fuel levels from the onboards of these cars. Some are just slightly below what you usually would use, so I'm thinking there might be a clear up on the weather, because if you don't want to commit in terms of like less than a lap, then you usually don't do the full race distance in these conditions. And one thing that is obviously very unhelpful for us spectators, you can't really see the sky because of the buildings, and it's dark, so we don't see the cloud coverage. So we just have to wait and see if it's actually clearing up. And first pit stop is coming in from T-Bran. Let's see what he is planning to do here. And other than that, everyone so far has continued on. I'm hoping that there's gonna there's a front wing change for the McLaren. I'm hoping that Sebo realizes that the intermediates are the right ones, but might be coming handy later on if there's more rain even. But I would say still overall would be useful to use this safety car to maybe even try the inters. He's at the back, like give it a go maybe. Everyone else is on it. Usually good indicator. And yeah, as I said before, if there's like not the full wet display in terms of the icon he's in, let's see.
Yeah, he's coming in. I think he's going to come in for the intermediate tyres, and we'll just obviously confirm that in the pit box in a few moments.
Yeah, and that is no front wing change. So yeah, he's going to use the inter tire and hopefully find some pace. He was relatively close, but obviously, as we said before, dirty as troublesome, and you need to be, yeah, obviously trying to eliminate rear slip in order to keep these tires alive. But they should do a good distance here, and obviously jumping early right now with the safety car would probably convert you to a two-stop, which yeah, you really don't want to do. There's no passing opportunities. And currently I don't think the delta is that high for people to actually be able to overtake. And yeah, he has rejoined the track and will be there in probably in a lap's time, and the feud will continue one more lap, I would assume, and then we will be back to Greenberg Racing. And so far it is calm, but maybe calm before the storm, and there might be more to come, but so far so good, I would say. And people are keeping those four wheels Truckster alluded to intact.
Absolutely. Yes, so, of course, Truckster, even himself, putting his saying to the test, of course, will need to go a lot further. Of course, 26 laps to go in these conditions, but of course, a few on the safety car, which was caused by a crash by a big bruiser. Of course, struggled all evening, so it was very little surprise to see him go out there. Unfortunately, no disrespect to the driver at all. It was just unfortunate. It was very evident that he was struggling with the conditions, and to Brown due to his front wing. But Quincy has just confirmed in the Discord that he will face a big penalty, so I highly doubt he's going to be in any sort of position to be benefiting from any positions at all. So we'll obviously try and find out how much that will be once the race ends. But at the moment, Tabran will probably just need to get his head down and do the best he can in an otherwise bad situation. Now, Pleasant Snake has remained your leader, and he's been the fastest on the intermediate tyres so far on a consistent basis, but I believe fastest lap went to Quincy, and it did not know. So then 1:45.6 from the Aston Martin there, and of course they are matching the qualifying times already. No real surprise there considering wet conditions. At the moment, no sign of the rain letting up, of course, as Herman alluded to earlier in the broadcast. Don't really get to see the cloud coverage here due to the nighttime sky, so it's very difficult to really make a judgment of where the rain is as of right now. But we'll see if... I mean, well, the only way we're really going to know is once race control call it, or just keeping an eye on those specks of rain there on your screen. But at the moment...
There's a bit of a dry line at the Anderson Bridge, so I currently assume it's not increasing in intensity, so it must be at least like inter-rain, which I always call it. So yeah, there's usually the chance now that it could clear up. So yeah, maybe you're looking at another 10 to 15 laps, and it might be a late dash. But yeah, we just have to see how much drip laps there are actually on our screen, and obviously the stand-in water and the dry line that is like from track evolution is forming. So yeah, even in weather conditions where the rain has kind of stayed over the track, but it's not moving in terms of the intensity level, and you still form a dry line because people are obviously driving on that line, and then you will be always getting faster lap times. And if there's a change in weather, then obviously you see the maximum performance from the Inter in damp conditions when there's no more rain coming. But that is obviously already the transition phase, and you have like 2 to 3 laps, sometimes maybe 4 or 5, depending on the track, where you get the best out of the tire. But you must be aware that there might be a change to slick tires soon. And the safety car has actually waited the whole another whole extra lap for Ibo, who is now caught the pack at the end of turn 7 to 8, as he will be joining our remaining 18 drivers. And yeah, we are looking at the front soon to see if Snake and how Snake is how he is going to be restarting this one, as we now seen the full 3 laps of the safety car after Sir no, Brick Bruiser had already exited this race in turn 7 into the barrier, unfortunately. And yeah, green flag racing is soon to come, as I expect the safety car to be called in right now, and that is the case. Over to you, Mr. Pleasant Snake.
Absolutely. We're going to go quiet. Let's hear the Aston Martin get us underway as we go on to lap 8 out of 31. And you can hear Quincy was desperate to get things underway, but Pleasant's sake just before the turn is now gone. But Quincy has been alert there, so that means that Quincy will be putting Pleasant's sake under pressure as we go on to lap 8 out of 31. Look at how close to the rear diffuser is between the top two, and they've left Drugster behind, so Drugster was napping a little bit. Danger David under pressure from Energetic. Can Salvi maybe salvage a position? And that's the same for Vincenzo, Moksha, and even Race Chase. But Race Chase was massively left behind there. Already over a second to Moksha. Of course, no DRS in these wet conditions, as per the rules of Formula 1. And now Quincy is starting to be checked out a little bit. Pleasant's sake seems to have found the pace after the restart there, and nothing Quincy could do despite that snappy restart from him. A move already from Tabran in the background there, overtaking ADS for 16th place, as Cerebro obviously now on those intermediate tyres. Couple of dry lines for me, as Herman says, but the rain not letting up as of right now. And Herman, well, good restart for everybody so far, but no positions gains apart from Tabran.
Yeah, it was once again very calm and collected, but you have to say you don't really want to risk anything. It's still a long race, 23 laps. There's nothing really to gain if you just completely go over the line and maybe even overdo it on the restart. The tires are still a bit colder than they would be after racing 1 or 2 laps around here in the rain, and you kind of need to get back into the rhythm again, because there's just a bit of that obviously lost when you drive slowly for 3 laps behind the safety car. And drivers will test the limits again, try to find where the earliest moments of acceleration can be found, and then get back into the groove.
Yeah, we just saw a moment there with the Ferrari of ADS going into the back of Tabran, but no damage to either car there, as Pleasant Sake gets the fastest lap of the race, a 1:42.7. So that evidently means that the track conditions are ever changing, and we should be seeing, well, the rain let up potentially as Tabran there. Look to the inside there into turn 18, but of course nowhere to go, so has to wait again. And is he going to try anything into turn 1? Not quite. The Aston Martin positions himself good enough. And that's Skid Solo there, defending from somebody who should be higher up the field, but due to front ring damage, they are much further down than they probably expected. But surely now, as we go down the straight into turn 7, also called Memorial Corner, let's see what the McLaren can do. Of course, as his teammate ahead, hopefully he'll be hoping for his own sake that he's just let through by Rendog. But here we go, surely a move on now as we go side by side into turn 7. Skid Solo defend this for all he is worth, and defends successfully. 15th place stays with the Aston Martin at the moment, but here we go again. Surely the McLaren gets another run, but not into here. You wouldn't dare risk it. And, well, he's going to have to try again into the next turn, but now his teammates there maybe can help out, but the Aston Martin gets a better run than the McLaren of Rento ahead, as out to Bran is forced wide, and ADS looks for a bit of room, but can't carry the momentum, so he's going to have to stay behind for now. But then we'll observe the battle for 6 here, as Salvi still not closing off here. He's actually checked out from the cars behind. Salvi showing incredible pace yet again. And we're probably now going to cut back to that battle for 15th. Is he Tabran close enough? Still no, but he's going to try and get a better corner. Oh, that was a much better exit. Surely the McLaren can now get the stump, but having a bit of a moment there. Loses out and the gap increases again. But Quincy there is swapping fastest lap, and Herman, I'm noticing that battle for the lead. They are both swapping fastest lap there. It's becoming a rather entertaining chess match. So, who is going to blink first? What do you expect from these two?
Yeah, it really depends on how the weather forecast was looking. If they want to or have to extend maybe, and they are currently getting information from the engineer that there's maybe 10, maybe 5 only left in this rain, and yeah, we can't really judge it as we alluded to before. So it really depends on what the forecast is throwing at them, and if it's gonna be staying like this, I would assume to see pit stops around the halfway mark as we kind of preserve these inters a bit under the safety car. So maybe they find a second life. That is not unusual with this tire, but I can also see someone risking it, going longer, extending a period to make one stop less instead of going to another interset, going for slick tire that lasts until the end of the race. But for now, we are a bit in the dark there for that. So if anything, Quincy should be looking at opportunities, since he can easily achieve an undercut here with over 2 seconds, obviously if the timing is right, and he has no major traffic, and the feed has already split a bit. It's not 20 seconds, it's apart from Silvo, that's 27 seconds, but after ADS that is basically a pit window, and he will be, or whoever pits first will be coming out in between the Ferrari in 16th and the Alpine in 18th. So anything to go by, get into your rhythm, focus on what's ahead of you. Currently there's nothing to worry about from behind, as the gap has extended to 1.6 seconds, but that's nothing to worry about, as Salvi is the first one to strike a foul on the track limits. Third time's the charm before you get a 3-second time penalty for track limit violations.
And there you go, Salvi, the first one to fall for that, and will have to serve that in his post-race. Of course, you can't serve that in a pit lane or a pit stop for that matter. So, rather unfortunate there for Salvi, who is on for a good result still, but obviously will probably need to try and be considerate with the positional game, with the positions from that. But here we go now. We've got maybe another battle for 15th, but again, just not close enough. Tabran started to get frustrated behind this Aston Martin. Of course, we started this evening in wet conditions, and it looks like we are going to finish it in these wet conditions also, unless if there is dry weather on the way. But at the moment, it's very hard to know where to look, but also there's not really much overtaken at the moment, very much replicating how it was to watch the Singapore Grand Prix, but there is still stories to happen here. Quincy and Snake still exchanging fastest laps, but now Snake is beginning to check out, and it's becoming, look, as it's Snake's race to lose, the more that gap increases. And at the moment, will we see somebody make a move here in these wet conditions? I think the wet not really favouring the handling dynamics of this game, and just kind of robbing us a little bit of a spectacle, but that doesn't mean, like I said before, as it won't dry up, as there we go. Foul struck with the track limits there by ADS, as now we're going to see Tabran within 0.4 of a second, still not close enough to have a go going into turn 16 there, and of course he will probably have to wait just a little longer before anything happens. I am trying my best to make sure. He's just made a mistake, and that is Tabran down to 16th there. So we have seen an overtake, but it was under under influenced by a mistake, and that was through 19 there. All those intermediate tyres on the McLaren falling off. Tabran just going to have to be a little careful now, but he will reset back in 17th place there. Rather unfortunate for the McLaren driver there, of course, facing a big penalty after taking intermediates in qualifying. We'll, of course, try and see how much that will be. At the moment now, and nobody's really able to move up the field here, Herman. Of course, we have no DRS under these wet conditions, and you know, it's difficult, isn't it? You've got to kind of rely on the driver in front of you to either make a mistake, and like, you know, is there any sort of technique you can do just to try and force anybody into a mistake without, of course, compromising your own driving?
Yeah, that's the tricky bit, especially in these 90-degree turns. You really want to, or energetic at a huge tank slapper at the exit of 13 into 14, but
Oh!
Almost spins him around into 14th, but he kept it straight and they are continuing on as he's now really close to him into the newly re-ramped part of the circuit where they removed the big giant grandstand, but there's no chance on getting by here without the DRS assistance, and that was quite a hairy moment for Energetic and Salve there. Glad he is okay on the front wing and there's hopefully no major damage to the rear of the car for Energetic, but he certainly lost some time because of that, not only from his own mistake but obviously from that hit going very sideways. But yeah, as you alluded to, there's really nothing you can really do. Most of the times the straights come after 90-degree turns, and then after that you just need to have better exits, and that is obviously trying to focus on how to limit the rear tire slip and yeah, managing the dirty air in front, because you lose downforce while braking behind the car under 210s, and after that it's just, yeah, you can't really outperform the dirty air. So this track is really suffering from not being able to be run in the dry. And yeah, same we have seen for over the years for like Zandvoort as well, obviously Monaco, and yeah, some other high downforce tracks that don't have any good overtaking opportunities if driven in the rain. So you just need to make sure to keep the rears alive, and then there might be an opportunity with an under or overcut. And if you have better pace, you might want to play some tricks on the guy in front. The Struxer is the next to fall to the 3-second time penalty. He is still currently under pressure from Nate Danger David in 4th, as they have now lost the front two by 4.5 seconds. And there's already a bigger gap in between the front two as we approach lap 14. And yeah, there will be pit stop soon, and we're gonna see a big shuffle and maybe even bigger gaps or bigger fighting groups, because Kovačka's train has been forming around P11 and has continued to be close together, but also this one from Vincenzo down, they are still nicely matched close by, and you really can jump a couple of people here if you time your pit stop right.
Yeah.
And yeah, from what I can see, not much change on the weather, still raining, and they're going to be on to another set of Inter soon.
Yeah. So, Rolly, of course, as you just alluded to, making this... Oh, an ADS has spun round at turn number 4. Is probably partially gone, and it was even hanging on the nose of his car there. And, of course, he just made a move on skid solo 1 lap ago, as we saw on the broadcast. And then Tabran now up into 14th and can finally look at his teammate. And that's what we were talking about earlier on. It's mistakes as now. The Red Dog has made a mistake going into, that is, I think, turn number 9 there, beg your pardon. So now we're into the Singapore sling of turn 10. And now, Tabran right up on his teammate. Will Rendog make this easy, or will he make this difficult? Let's see what the McLarens do. Will there be any papaya rules in effect here? It doesn't look like it so far. Looks like Tabran is going to have to get this done the hard way. And, well, Rendog not afraid to put up a fight here, as he has shown in plenty of leagues I've commentated in. That's, well, I thought he messed that corner up there for a hot moment, but no, gets it all underway in the right direction. We'll keep it at points against Quincy. First in the top 5 to make a pit stop, Herman.
Yes, he's into the pit lane first, and he will be trying to get into that nice sweet spot after the second Aston Martin in skid solo. I noticed T-Brand might have had some issues on the game here. He got used intermediates from 9 laps with 9 laps tire life, so that is obviously not going to be helping. They warm up sooner and they have some extra grip earlier on, but you kind of want to go to the end, and I think extra 9 laps is going to be tough task, even though it's going to be facing a major penalty. And Quincy is ahead of, is directly behind Skid Solo, so that was great timing, and some others have also jumped the gun into the pit lane, including Takengino Rendog, obviously ADS after that spin, and Kovačka all in the pit lane, making way now for their probably first and only pit stop of this race.
Absolutely. And now, yes, as Tabran has sadly gone on a used set of intermediate, so he's in trouble as Skid Solo there having a bit of a moment going through turn number 9. That might leave Quincy a chance here to overtake. As Surebo is also losing a couple of positions in the background. We've got a very scrappy fight going on right now. And, well, there, Sir Ibo losing 3 positions in that little exchange alone. That just kind of shows you how far behind the pack he is. That was just one straight away as well. Now, don't get me wrong, the 3 cars were close together, but usually you can rely on one slipstream just to keep you in. As now, finally, Quincy around the outside there, going into 14, has got that move done. Great move from the Ferrari driver as Pleasant Snake now into the pits. Should be another set of intermediates to go to the end. No zero stoppers happening at the moment, as there we go, the rest of the drivers into the pits. So now we turn all eyes to the Ferrari, and he will have been held up by the Aston Martin. And Race Chase now your new leader, as now Pleasant Snake is just on the pit exit now, as Quincy done enough to get in front of just about everybody. Snake now just coming on the pit lane exit. Quincy just going through turn 1 now. And there's Tabran side by side with the Aston Martin. And there's Quincy at the background of your frame here. These are important laps for the Grand Prix. Tabran out of this due to taking intermediates in qualifying, which is against the league rules. But now, as we say that, Energetic also makes a move. But now Tabran needing to hold on to second as of right now, although this is technically the lead of this Grand Prix. But Quincy will be welcoming that McLaren in front there, because that's bringing the Ferrari back into the picture. And as of right now, there's your top 3, because we're still waiting for Race Chase to make his pit stop, more than likely. Is to Danger David and Truckster.
David on Truckster!
There
and
you
he
go.
almost shoved him off! Nice move by the Scotsman, but I think Truckster's not going to be happy with that. There was not so much room left on the outside, and he was clearly forced into going over the white lines at the exit of Memorial Corner. Turn 7, that is. I'm not so sure if that was a clean and obviously legal pass here for the Alpine reserve driver in Truckster, and Danger David against Truckster. So that is going to be maybe reviewed by the stewards, but currently he has now opted for the slot in between Energetic and Truckster. And yeah, that is obviously a net gain position, because they have already pitted and only the top 2 have not. So they will be in their
here we go.
positions at the end.
Here we go again for second place, and oh my goodness me, the Aston Martin forces the McLaren wide there. Tabran off the road, and he's probably not going to be happy about that as he cuts off the Aston Martin there, the 2 championship contenders from last season, trying to do battle. But Tabran is, of course, on older tyres, and that is why these 2 have caught up so quickly. And if they continue fighting with Tabran in the picture, well, who else could come into this? You got Energetic and Danger David, as we've had somebody crash on the straight between turn 13 and 14. It's one of the Ferraris. I would have to assume that's ADS, because obviously we're looking at one Ferrari here that's in this battle, as Skid Solo is the next driver to get a penalty there. And at the moment now, Quincy just coming out of the slipstream there. But now everything just calming down for the time being, and Tabran wouldn't have been happy with that move. But at the moment, it's all as it was in the second, third, and fourth. And Energetic is catching up to that battle as ADS has had another moment. What is going on there? As ADS is reversing, but at the moment, well, all attention to the battle for second, Herman. This is becoming a very exciting Grand Prix after the pit stops.
Yeah, obviously it helps when some people stay out, but it's ironic somehow that Race Chase isn't gaining anything. The gap has stayed at 12 seconds, and you can't really use a fresh tire if there's
goodness
nothing
me!
to do.
That could have been a disastrous move there, because Pleasant Snake just misses his braking point, and that leaves Quincy on the comeback there. We'll come back to that in just a second, and don't you worry, as now third place is being battling. Quincy down the inside of his championship rival, but does Pleasant Snake have anything to come back with? Here we go, Quincy and Snake side by side into 16 here, and it's Snake that wins out again. And these 2 are having a great time. But Herman, they've brought Energetic and David to the party.
Yeah, that fighting obviously helps them behind, and you're really looking at a 4- or 5-way fight now if they actually can have the pace. And after T-Brand is cleared, if there's anything basically left on the fronts, because you're going to be using them a lot more than you would like to. And obviously, if you want to get by on the opponent, the rears are going to be suffering too. So yeah, huge moment inside of this race after the pit stops, as you said. And yeah, I wanted to allude to Race Chase not really gaining that much. Gap has stayed flat, and obviously he's going to be having fresher tires. But at what cost? Currently, I would assume he will be rejoining the race between Toby and Kovachka inside of a 9-second gap if he is soon to pit. And yeah, it doesn't look like this. The rain isn't shifting anytime soon. At least not for the next 10 laps. And after that, we're very close to the end already. So let's see how the fight for second continues.
There we go, to Bran again under pressure and in one of the most unlikely places, but they're approaching a yellow flag. Pleasant State with an important move now. Quincy needs to follow suit ASAP. There's contact between the Ferrari and the McLaren. The McLaren did not want to give that up, but in the end they had to. They are on the older tyre, as Herman said. 9-lap older intermediates on the McLaren. There was a mistake there within the game. Now will we start to see that gap come down from second to first there, now that Pleasant State has a bit of clear air, has been the faster of the two in these conditions, but Quincy not afraid to fight, and Snake not afraid to fight back. These two having a great battle so far. This Grand Prix has come alive in these last 3 laps thanks to the pit stops, and now we're seeing Danger David try and come back at energetic there. And well, as Herman said, there was an overtake earlier on at Memorial Corner, but now look, there's Salvi and Truckster as well. Of course, these two have penalties, 3 seconds added on to their post-race time for violations of the track limits. That's Danger David from the outside to the inside into turn 1. Will the Scotsman make that work? No, he wasn't close enough to do so, so has to slot back behind for now. But as Chabran is now starting to be left behind by Pleasant State and Quincy, as ADS has retired, but only in the pit lane, so that's fine. We will not need any intervention from race control. We will continue racing, and this is becoming a fantastic Grand Prix. And there's energetic through on to Bran there. Of course, we already know his situation, but Danger David now needs to make this work as he looks to the inside from the outside to the... Oh no! That's contact between the two, and there's a collision afterwards. Truckster loses his front wing end plate. Oh my goodness me, Herman, that is disaster for Truckster.
Yeah, another, I think, overly ambitious move by David. Obviously, you tried to outbrake your rival, but there wasn't really any moment left in terms of when to stop the car, and he was quite over it already. And yeah, T-Bran held his position on the outside, kept the line, and then yeah, David just locked it up, and the chain reaction caused another bad moment for Truckster, who has been suffering from other people's mistakes inside of Singapore weekend. Yesterday with Andrew got disqualified because pit lane was blocked, and T-Bran and Salvi are going at it into turn 14, as we have kept an eye on the Polish driver for McLaren, who's being chased by other drivers inside of this second part of the stint basically, and he is trying to go as long as he can. Have maybe a later advantage. Top 2 have stayed together, but Race Chase lead has come down by so much. He's probably over the point of no return, where he's not gaining anything from staying out anymore. Just waiting for a safety car, trying to get these tires somewhere to the end. Obviously that fighting helps, but yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they're gonna be blowing up soon, because these rears are gonna be suffering a lot of feed in these conditions. And Salvi is keen on getting by on T-Bran. He has lost energetic by a couple of seconds already, and there's a side-by-side moment with the Haas. Outside line goes to Salvi, inside for T-Bran. Can he make it work around the outside? Uses maximum track width, and he can. Is David keen on doing the same? Late lunge again. This time he keeps it on track, but he shoved T-Bran into the wall, and Truckster's going around the outside as well. The camera angle was just horrible. And the Red Bull is now trying to out-drag the also stricken McLaren side by side into turn 10. Is going to be huge. Inside line, very nicely done by T-Bran. Next turn is towards Truckster, but can't make it. And then T-Bran stays ahead for the time being as they approach the braking zone of turn 13 once again. T-Bran is making this race interesting, David.
He really is as well, and he's just lost the front wing end plate, as you said, from, of course, being forced into the wall by the Scotsman. David driving angry, maybe, as he's got Salvi for company now, but David should make quick work of that, I think. He is probably quicker than, I think, the Italian driver, forgive me if I'm wrong there. And at the moment, with David still trying to put some places on us. There we go again. Yes, here we go, as Pleasant State has just set the fastest lap of the race, but now he's got that gap to 6.4 seconds, so Race Chase is hanging on for an unlikely safety car We'll see how that pans out, but at the moment, 6.5 seconds, and Quincy is following suit, not too far behind there. There's the Haas of Rowley. I haven't spoken much about him. He's just been kind of doing his own race. He's currently where he qualified, in 11th position, and we'll soon see how that all goes. But Trugster now right on the back of Tabran, of course, both carrying front wing damage from their end plates on different sides, might I add. So the aerodynamic advantage is going to go in different ways, but Trugster there taking advantage of the fresher tyres. He's down the outside, going through into turn 7 Memorial Corner. McLaren slots in, and that is 7th place for Trugster, but needs a 3-second buffer when he goes through. But now we're looking at Danger David, and is he going to try? Oh my goodness me, looked at both tyres. I thought he was going to do another one of his Scotsman characteristic dives there, but held off, kind of realised the corner that was coming up. But those locked tyres on the intermediates do give me a bit of a fright there. I just think we're going to see something dramatic happen. As now, going into 13, David keeps things pointing in the right direction, but there are other battles forming around this. Of course, Quincy's still trying to stay within a second there. Oh no, Herman!
Vincenzo! Oh, he locked up completely and went straight on. Couldn't take the turn. And then almost blocked the path on the outside, but I don't think there was anyone hitting him. Didn't see any carbon fiber flying, so there was... quite a hairy moment there for the Italian in the kick-sauber. That was not to his liking. Maybe a bit of distraction from the battles in front that have been happening. I was locking the fronts. He is continuing to do so into the 16 and 17 chicane. So yeah, that was scary, and obviously for the guys around him. And there's a late call into the pit lane. Let's see if there's a tire change or maybe even a retirement. But yeah, he's down to 12. As the rest has evaded him, and he does indeed so, and will not finish the race on the track inside of the pit lane now, and that moves everyone up, and yeah, almost everyone is going to be scoring points soon, as yeah, only Sir Ibo is currently then in 16th respectively, after he has already, or will be clearing that kicks out in the pit lane.
At the moment, one of the closer battles out on track at the moment is between the three that you are looking at on the broadcast. It is Kovachka.
Oh, Moksha around the outside, T-Brand maybe? Turn 8.
Here we go.
That was so nicely lined up. Inside line now for the Williams. Oh, it does it beautifully. Very well executed. This is how you make a move. Just try to bait the defensive maneuver early from the guy in front, and then just pounce on the exit when you try the old switcheroo, and he indeed did so. Obviously, tire life is going to be huge advantage for him here, and there's a 3-second time penalty as well for T-Bran. But Moksha, with probably one of the best moves inside of the race here, as Pleasant Lake is about to take away the lead from Race Chase, who is going to the pit lane now. 22 laps seems to be the maximum the Inters can do, and he was stricken basically for that hopeful case that there will be a safety car late. And if he has any... Oh no.
Oh no, there's a McLaren in the wall. There's a McLaren in the wall. I'm just trying to figure out. That is Rendog currently, but he is pointing in the right direction. And, well, he's just missing a whole bunch of his front left end plate there, as Danger David gets a 3-second penalty for track limit violation. So now all of a sudden that battle between him and Salvi is evened out. And, well, I must say, Salvi is putting on a very good performance here, but I said Energetic would be outside of the top 5, but guess what? He is right up there in 3rd place. But Quincy and Snake proving to be faster than Energetic so far, but then again, that Mercedes has had no real clear air, as now Rendon gets a 10-second penalty because his teammate Tabran is in there as well, and it's not going to be a double stack as Rendog retires. And now, well, everyone guaranteed points now, so Ribbo will get a singular point by doing nothing at all, like George Russell in Singapore, except the only difference
kept it more out of the walls than David kept his nose out of other people's sideboards, so you gotta give him credit where credit is due.
Exactly, yeah, like, you know, you sometimes just running your own race gets you the results that you require, and for Surabo, that has been the case for him, so he is guaranteed points so long as he can finish this race. But we know how Singapore can be in SSRL. It really does bring out the drama, and now we are looking at the battle for 8th place here, and at the moment that is between Rowley and Toby. Toby trying to hold on to this 8th place, while Danger David is still trying to get past Salvi. Salvi having a great race so far himself. I know I've been speaking of his praises quite highly recently, and he's certainly one of the debuts here in SSRL, and it's certainly looking like he's going from step to step each race. As of right now, though, we are going to continue looking at this because the rain hasn't let up. I think there is 8 laps to go, so it will be 8 laps to go at the line for these two that we continue to look at. And as Rolly, having moments there, and Salvi gets another 3-second penalty, so please don't speak his praises too highly there, or else he might get another. So let's just keep that on the down low. That never happened. And at the moment now, it looks like Snake has begun to check out from Quincy as well, so that battle for the lead is starting to, for no irony at all, or no prediction, dry up. And let's keep that one going, because I think I heard Herman let something out there. But here we go, Rolly down the inside. There we go. Yeah, he's got that into 8th place. So Toby, I don't think we'll be able to fight that back. He was just going a little deep there, but no contact resulting. Rolly up into 8th place. Moksha, 4.2 seconds down the road. Herman, who is your driver that you were really impressed with tonight?
I think overall Snake, because you got to give him that he navigated very tricky circumstances, as there's, I think, so we're making way for the top 2 that is into turn 14, so nothing worrisome for now for the yellow flag. Snake has had some extra pressure. Obviously he extended the gap, has continued to do so inside of the last couple of laps, but yeah, obviously the T-Brands situation is where things can go very south, very fast. And I'm interested to see if we see a Sainz-like charge that wasn't shown, what was shown on the TV broadcast on Sunday, other than girlfriends and Norris and Max. Let's see if he can make a charge into further points position. He has currently cut the difference to Toby by 2 seconds inside of the last 1.5 laps, as he has finally made his probably only pit stop. And there's gonna be maybe a late charge here from the V Cup to get even some more points. I'm not certain if the time that is left is gonna be good enough to maybe jump into positions where he can benefit from time penalties. We will have to wait and see, but the tire difference of like 10 to 11 laps, depending on the driver you look at, is quite big. So I will keep an eye on him and see how the gap develops. But right now, since there's no real on-track battle, just a bit of trying to stay alive and maybe have a fighting chance at the end if there's an opportunity lining up for you. David is still close with Salvi. Obviously, extra time penalty on the side of the Haas driver, but for now, the action has calmed down a lot, so yeah.
Well, I mean, that's in these wet conditions, that is expected. Of course, no DRS trains can form due to the conditions here, so I wasn't really, when we were kind of going into wet conditions, I wasn't expecting much, but I think there's been a lot less chaotic of an evening here in SSRL compared to Division 1. So everything has remained all clean and nice for the time being, apart maybe some argy-bargy here and there, but it has certainly been a much calmer affair, and I think the admins will be appreciating that one. Division 2, proving that you can race cleanly here in Singapore, as Pleasant Stake again, 142.5, so his race to lose going into the final 6 laps of the Grand Prix, and the only close battle we've really got on track would be between Danger David and Salvi. But of course, remember, Salvi with an additional 3 seconds to serve after pinging track limits yet again. So 6 seconds added on to his post-race time. So he'll be ahead of Truckster at the very least. So he will hang on to 5th. Still quite an impressive race. He'd be up 2 positions once we got to the line, as long as Danger David doesn't make any additional mistakes. But we know he can get quite feisty in that cockpit, or quite scrappy, is probably the better word there. Well, Danger David not afraid to just throw it down the inside, whether it's welcomed or not. There you go. That's how close he can get onto braking, just going into turn 7 through Memorial Corner. And of course, actually, Herman has fond memories of fighting for a championship with Danger David back in Season 4. What was it like fighting with this Scotsman for the Season 4 title, which, of course, as we all know, went to Andy Andre?
Yeah, the funny thing is, every time I tried to recall battles, I think most of the times it was very, it was more of a distant duel where you always knew about who was like running in your points category, or in like the area of the points you were having yourself inside of the standings. But honestly, I don't think there were much battles inside of the 10 races we had. It was always like He was slightly ahead, took maybe a position or two off me, was on the podium when I was not. Obviously, Andy and myself had a lot of exchange in wins. Obviously, yeah, both of them not being on the podium in Austria, where we had Moksha for the first time in SSRL history, as he joined us for Season 4 for the first time on the podium, and someone else who didn't have time penalties because of a late safety car. So that was always like, David is like a force to be reckoned in the sense that you can't count him out. Like, you always need to be aware that if David is racing in close proximity to you, even if it's not a direct duel, you need to be wary of him. And I think when I raced him, that was probably more like in Season 1, 2, and obviously in a league before SSRL was formed. So there he was quite feisty, but there were also sometimes fights where he was trying to help his very old and very good teammate in D. Perez, who was also a name for us in Season 1. So always keep in mind Danger David, and obviously he can get feisty, as we've seen yesterday and today. So there's always this lurking Scotsman in your back where you don't want to get too comfortable if he's around you.
Tell you what, Herman, you know that meme where it says, why can I hear boss music, and then it has some sort of imposing figure? I'd say for Dave...
Yeah, why can I hear Scotland?
No, I can hear... Why can I hear bagpipes?
Yeah, bagpipes. Yeah.
That's what I think of David. And David is, well, the Salvi's bagpipes are going to be going deaf to the bagpipes, because now Danger David goes up into 4th place there. Not really much of a controversial move. Salvi trying to fight back there, but at the moment he's nowhere to go. Danger David, I think, is going to be safe and sound, and I do think that is how the Grand Prix is going to finish there, unless if David gets another time penalty there, but just don't see that happening. When David is aware of what the situation is with his track limits, he does know how to calm down his driving, and he is always aware of those warnings that he does get over the race, and he always just tones down his driving where he needs to, and that is why I think he's calmed down on the overtakes as the race has gone on. So I think they're just smart driving from the Scotsman, and he's already checking out from Salvi there, so I don't think that's going to be any more problem. He's got clear air in front of him. But one driver I've been keeping an eye on throughout the end of this Grand Prix is Energetic. He's got that gap to Quincy down to about 1.7 seconds as of right now. So remember, Energetic got the win last week. He's currently on for 2nd place as of right now after qualifying in 5th. He's up 2. There's 1.5 seconds between him. There's other battles at the back as well. Race Chaser, of course, going in late, trying to do a signs-like charge down the field, which, as Herman did allude to, we did not get on the broadcast. Is currently making his way. He's got Toby and Rowley. Don't think he's got enough time for Moksha unless there is a fatal mistake from the Williams. I don't think there will be, though. Moksha has usually been a rather consistent driver in this league. But let's have a look at this battle for 10th place. It is getting oh so close. Herman, Race Chase there, hasn't really made up the place. He's really only got 8th place to come.
Yeah, I think the biggest advantage obviously is going to be using that extra tire in terms of its performance without using too much of it, because like if you have a significant tire advantage, then you just drive the advantage by just driving. Basically, you don't really need to push, but he has fully charged his battery. He's going to be trying to get this straight lined up for his overtake on Toby. Is he going to try to the inside? No, there's not much room, but he's certainly on the advantage for the battery. 16 to 100% of 94 in that case. So the sister team might be looking at another points, another position here soon, as we are down to the last 4 laps, and there will be an opportunity soon. Just needs to make sure he has enough laps left to pass both of them. And that was very close to turn. At the exit of turn 3, there's a tank slapper for Toby, who's been on these tires for some time now. Currently 14 laps compared to Race Chase's 6. And there's another good exit for the V-Cup. Goes side by side onto that very good overtaking opportunity even inside of the rain. And Toby yields that before applying the brakes. And that is now a 9th position for Race Chase. But I have to say, there were 12 seconds before he pitted. He was out there before T-Burn was cleared by Quincy and Snake. and later on he was just a couple of tenths before in front of Snake when he pitted. So there was maybe huge, bigger opportunity, especially these time penalties from the guys in 4th to 6th. So yeah, maybe something to look at for the next race is Japan won't be any easier on overtaking, even in the dry.
And I think there's something about Japan that I just need to state here, because on the broadcast it looks quite wide. Obviously, these cars haven't really helped with that illusion. These cars are far wider than I think they ever have been. Maybe 2017, 20 to 2021 having some exceptions, but as far as I know, these cars have been the widest they've ever been in F1 history. And, it doesn't really help. Of course, Suzuka in real life provided the least amount of overtakes, I think, compared to last year, which I think it was down to just about single digits. I can't remember the number off the top of my head. You probably know that. But at the moment, Japan's going to be very tough on these drivers. And it's going to be interesting to see how that all plays out, and with the wet qualifying as well. There's a lot of grass around Suzuka. There's not much of a runoff that you could get away with like you're here in Singapore. It is your very much traditional track. We're going to see how that goes. But 2 laps to go. Race Chase half a second away from 8th place. And David also right on the back of Energetic, which probably was at the battle. That is Rowley with a lockup, going deep into Memorial Corner at turn 7. He loses the place to both Race Chase and Toby. And Race Chase now, too far away from Moksha, but at least Race Chase has solidified 8th place there. And now David battling for 3rd, but he would need a 3-second buffer as we, going on to the final straight here. It's David seriously going to try something. Energetic, hearing the bagpipes in the background. However, they must be absolutely deafening him. David got a better exit, but that was nearly into the barrier there from the Alpine driver. But no move here at the moment. We're on to the final lap, and, David needs a 3-second buffer. He's not going to get that, Herman.
No, it doesn't seem to be. Something I've been monitoring on telemetry is most of the drivers at the front are over 75% on their worst tire. Oh my god, that was so close to the wall at the exit of the last turn by David. That was so close to doing the Stroll a couple of years back. That was an exit in qualifying too, I think, in 2013 or something, where he just lost it on
2013? Are you thinking of F3? No, that was...
Then he lost it! Oh, he saved it! No, he lost it again! He saved it! Oh my god, what a wiggly wobble by David. And Salvi is through, but obviously not on time penalties and energetics. Yeah, P3 is now even more safe. I just wanted to say that 75% or more, you risk losing your tire to a puncture. Some of the drivers have to manage these or nurse these tires home now with a couple of corners to go. Least corners to go, obviously. Snake has almost entered the final sector, has driven brilliantly, and 10 seconds of a gap is quite a statement after losing out the win in Azerbaijan. What do you think is his secret to this maybe again championship charge, Dave? And Truckster crashed it! No! Oh my god!
Rowley did the same thing. He's got a puncture. Rowley has a puncture on the final lap. He is dropping down the order quicker than a stone to water. But Pleasant Snake, let's have a look at this. And Truckster, one does not finish from 4 wheels. Same for Rowley, but Pleasant Snake wins in Singapore after losing the win in Baku last week. And Quincy, it's going to be another podium, his 2nd in a row, and he's going to fall behind his championship rival. But Energetic now is being caught by Salvi and David. It doesn't matter, it's David Spence again! And I think there could be a puncture on the Alpine, but then, after all the penalties...
Rear left.
Rear left puncture, and everybody's suffering on punctures apart from Race Chase. So maybe Race Chase had the right idea, because he now finishes in 7th, as Toby will now get 8th. After that, Kovachka, starts outside the top 10, but will he finish there? Tarkangino is beginning to catch him at a rate of knots. Tarkangino into 16. It's right on the rear diffuser, and there's no real room to overtake unless you get a mad exit from the next corner. And now, I think he's kept it. So Kovachka qualifies outside the top 10 as the McLaren spins on the line, losing out to Skid Solo. No, well, there's something I never thought I'd ever say in my commentating career, but there we go. There's always a first. But Salvi was only 9 hundredths away from taking Danger David's spot after his puncture. That is so close, and what a drive from the house driver as well. And Cerebro, I don't think, because he's a lap down, he's not going to gain on those positions or with the DNF.
No. Probably not, let's see, but Traxxas certainly not, because he passed that point. And yeah, Rolly is also into the next lap, yeah, so should be staying 15th, but he did the best he could, and that is yeah, very tricky on this track, especially in these conditions. And he's through to make it our 15 finishes, 13 finishes, but he's gonna be in 15 as of the ranking. What a finale to this race, especially with this wear, and I'm assuming a lot of more people had sweat on their fuck, I lost the word here. Anyway, probably sweating a lot because of the tire wear, but Snake and Quincy also, as well as Energetic, made it through, and there is Snake on the top step of the podium again, followed home by Quincy and Energetic, who took first last week, third again, and that's gonna be probably our three-way fight for the rest of the season. Let's see.
Absolutely, and of course, it is, of course, two top threes in a row for both Quincy, Energetic, and Snake. Of course, Snake this time taking the win with fastest lap going to the same driver. Driver of the day goes to Tabran. I don't agree with that at all. Most overtakes also going to Tabran with cleanest driver Kovachka. I'll tell you the driver of the day, but I think you all know who it's going to be. But let's go through your top 10. Pleasant State, Quincy, Energetic, rounding out your top 3. 4th and 5th, Dage, David, and Salvi, with 6th and 10th being Moksha, Rachel, Toby, Kovachka, Targagino, and then I probably missed one there. But 11th, 15th, Skidsello, Turan, Drugster, Drolly, Fusorobo, with Rendog, Vincenzo, ADS, Big Bruiser, rounding out your non-finishers. And that is perfect. But anyway, Herman, you are a specialist at podium interviews, so I'm going to let you do those for Division 2. And we'll take it from there. But otherwise, we've got second place with us in just a few moments. But I think it was a bit quiet in the first part of the race there. But more importantly, once it got into the pit stops, and then, of course, those final few laps, whether the tyres would make it or not, the Grand Prix just came alive at the end there. And it was just that slow build into the final acts there. It was just an absolutely magnificent Grand Prix, Herman.
Yeah, there was obviously a bit of drought in between, and obviously gaps forming, and managing the dirt here from the car in front, even if you felt like you were faster, was troublesome. And I expect a lot of people saving the rears, and the safety car obviously helped extending that first tire. But yeah, that was certainly close on probably on most of the rear tires for even Inter that was doing 15 or maybe 17 laps in some cases. So yeah, hats off to everyone finishing. But before we conclude to the interviews, I really have to go pee before we go. So give me a quick 2 minutes and I will be right back.
Okay then. Well, obviously, what a Grand Prix that was, and some of the tyres not holding out, especially for David. That nearly gave Salvi a career best 4th place there in SSRL. But well, I think that's my driver of the day as well. But Pleasant Snake holding on to pole position. Quincy holding on to second there, where he qualified, and then Energetic finding himself in 3rd place there. Great driving all around from the top 5 there. And yeah, no, it was certainly a Grand Prix to remember. I might just get things started off here for Herman's sake here. So I'm just going to have a question here with Pleasant Snake, but I just want to say congratulations on the win, Snake. What a statement to lose pole position and lose the win last week, to convert pole to the win this week. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling quite good, or really good right now. It's I've been working for 6 days, so I haven't had that much practice. So I was a bit surprised, but yeah, I'm happy. It was a tough race, at least the first half of it, and also maybe the second. But I was trying to push for to have a gap in case I was a bit rough on the overtake there.
And now, for any
Sorry.
further questions, with Herman being back with us, all further questions will come from my co-commentator.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. So obviously, Snake, there was quite an interesting fight throughout last week's race. Tonight was more about the question of endurance and how you would keep rears especially alive on this track. You already said it yourself, but I would assume so. There's probably not much wet running for you inside of this game so far, and probably presumably not inside of this week. So, what was your initial fear when you could get on the game, maybe first time out inside of the qualifying? You just managed to make it look easy. Obviously, it was around a tenth of a gap to Quincy for second, but yeah, how do you find that initial feel that makes you go so comfortable on the car that pushes you towards a victory like this, and obviously a nice pole position?
I've been just trying to because as you said, I haven't had that much wet practice on this game until recently. I've had some at least, but I've just been trying to drive really calm and easy, and take care of those tires, because at least on this track, it's a lot of tire wear. So yeah, I've been just really trying to have a smooth driving style as possible in the wets now.
Yeah, that's obviously very crucial, and keeping the tires working till the end before blowout, which also happened to some of the drivers on the final lap, is crucial. Next week's gonna be Japan. How do you fancy your chances on this track? It's gonna be very high on downforce once again, but a different kind of feel, and obviously even in the dry, hard to pass again. So pole position in another wet qualifying will be crucial again. How do you plan, if you can even practice for that and maybe get some more laps under your belt before?
Ooh, hopefully I will get some laps in, but I'm going away for a couple of days from tomorrow. So, hopefully I will get some wet practice in for before Japan. I can't really recall. I've driven Japan in the wets on this game, so we will see. I'm hopefully get some laps in.
Okay, looking forward to another feisty battle at the front for first position between you and maybe Quincy or Energetic. Let's see. Congrats again on your first position, and speak to you next week.
Thank you.
All right, moving to second position. That is obviously with Quincy and his Ferrari tonight. Yeah, Quincy, there was obviously an opportunity inside of that start of the second stint. Seemed like overall for the first parts, Snake had the better on you. Easily opened up a gap early on. Then you seemed in a race for your own, especially after you both got a better restart of the safety car. Then you fancied your chances there, was quite close, couldn't really go ahead there with T-Brand's help. So, are you a bit gutted, or are you okay with the second place for tonight?
I would say gutted, but after breaking my wing into turn 4, I was quite happy to retain second place. Gutted about the undercut not paying off due to Snake's teammate doing some Mexican Minister of Defense on my outlap. So I planned to have a really good outlap. I knew the undercut was on, and judging by how close I was to Snake on the exit of his pit lane when he came round, I thought that was probably my only chance that I would get to do it, to pass him.
Yeah, obviously, you had some practice from the qualifying yesterday, but that was still another page to be turned for full wet race inside of this on this track. Was there anything you particularly maybe changed in terms of how you wanted to set up for the race, or especially obviously strategy when looking at the forecast? Maybe take some extra fuel out, or maybe go for that overcut you alluded to. Anything more in your book of tricks to maybe get by on Snake tonight?
I just for qualifying, I just tried to time it the best I could. I still think that I probably could have timed it a little bit better. I think my last lap was a little bit too early, so Snake definitely got the better conditions, just like David did yesterday. pretty much setting somewhat of the same lap times as David yesterday on that last lap. So clearly it's better to just time your runs better and go really late. He also pitted obviously in qualifying for a new set tyre, so that would have helped as well. As for the race, I tried my best, tried to get by on him when he was fighting T-Bran, got up quite the onside of him as well in a very dangerous place. I was a bit cheeky, but I was trying everything that I could to try and gain the advantage while T-Bran was holding us both back. So it was good racing. I really enjoyed it. The rest of the race was a little bit boring because I was on my own. He just had superior pace once he was in clear air. My engine started overheating and I had to sort of drop back, and that's when I started over pushing and broke my wing. So he's definitely got the pace on me, but I will be taking any advantage that I can into the next round in Japan.
Yeah, that's obviously gonna be our next stop. How overall feeling compared, obviously, to these two street tracks we had before? It's more of a classic racetrack. Do you like it more? Do you like it less? What is sort of general feeling for you for Suzuka?
Japan is very hard. Tire degradation is very, very, very bad as well. Even in the wet conditions. So not too looking forward to Japan, as I know that Snake is very strong here. I know he said he hasn't done a lot of practice and whatnot, but history has it he's always been very strong in this track, Japan. So not truly looking forward to it, but I will see what I can do in terms of results. I'm just playing Japan by ear. It's not one of my stronger tracks.
Okay, looking forward to see if you can finish in inside of the top 3 in 3 races in a row, and then we will see what Japan holds for you next week. Thank you, and congrats again on 2nd position for tonight.
Thank you very much.
Moving on to our Dutch driver on the podium. 3rd position is completed by Energetic. Yeah, taking a very surprising win, I would say. Obviously, out 2 contenders for the World Championship of last season were behind you, and obviously had a good execution of your strategy, making it work. Today, you were a bit outside of the top 2. Anything that particularly strikes you after yesterday's race that maybe wasn't putting in that performance that was needed to maybe get close to the top 2? As what is your first thoughts on what is the conclusion of this race?
I think setup wise was because my rears didn't work what I wanted them to do. I was sliding all over the place, and I was happy to jump. I think it was Truckster and David into the pits, and from then on in, I tried to catch Quincy in front of me, but in the end, my tires were like 85%. So I tried to manage those to the end.
Yeah, that is obviously one of the biggest things we've seen. It seems like a more reasonable thing, obviously, with no opportunities to pass in the wet, that you would do a one stop and go for that extension on this safety car, and then have hopefully some tires left at the end. You were close to obviously being in a fight with David, and sometimes obviously looking in your review mirror. But there was a time where you were catching to Quincy. Do you feel like that was just a particularly good part of the race, or was he struggling more? Where was maybe a bit of pace for you in that part of the race?
Sometimes I felt really good on some laps, but I tried to do every lap the same, and not any laps were the same for me. The one was good, and then it was bad, and I lost all the time. And especially sector 2, I gained a lot, but lost a lot in like 3rd sector and sector 1. So probably had more downforce on my car than Quincy had, and even with his broken front wing, I couldn't catch him like I wanted to.
Yeah, obviously we now concluded our doubleheader of street races. They're going to be going to be a bit of waiting time for we head to the next one in Vegas later down the line. What do you think of Suzuka as a track for yourself? Do you think you can get back to fighting at the front of these top 2 currently, or do you feel like you need to be doing some damage limitation next week?
Damage limitation next week, because I've never been good at Japan, especially at the S's and those two right-handers. And that happened. I quite dislike the track of Japan for a few years now, so I'm gonna try to do some damage limitation next week.
Okay, looking forward to see what that actually means, and maybe we'll speak to you again for top 3 interview. Congrats again on P3, and speak to you maybe next week.
Speak to you later.
Bye. David, that has been the conclusion of tonight's Singapore Grand Prix for Division 2. I think overall the race had some highlights and some lowlights, but I think still a memorable fight, and especially that very interesting T-brand blockage that made for a good fight at the front. Obviously, we are going to be hoping that there's no rain for Japan. That is really tough to overtake on already in the dry, as we said before. What is your final thought for this race as we conclude with the evening?
Well, yes, as you say, you kind of summed it up beautifully right there, because there was kind of a quiet first half, and then the pit stops happened, and obviously Tabran were undercut just about everybody, but just did not have the tyres because of that going on the older tyres, and that just kind of screwed him over for his own race, and of course, he has that penalty thanks to using intermediate tyres in the qualifying. So I don't know. Quincy, can you tell me how many seconds that will be added onto Tabran's time?
No idea. We'll have to have a word with the stewards and see what the fitting punishment is for Mr. T-Bran.
And short and sweet like that. So, of course, we'll find out, I think, when we go into next week. But to conclude, Singapore came alive towards the very end. And in the end, the wet racing did not seem to be a bother. But Japan was a narrower track, much harder to overtake. So let's hope for a dry race, but you just never know. Of course, it will still be a wet qualifying, and all drivers will maybe need to use a wet tyre. I think we'll see. We'll see when we go into next week. But otherwise, Herman, I think there's not really much point in dragging this out much further. Thank you so much for your insights from this evening, and I'll look forward to seeing you next week in Division 2 and on track for Division 1.
Yeah, see you, and until next week, it was always a pleasure again, and on to Japan, I would say. See you.
See you in Japan. Bye-bye.
Bye.
And of course, just as a final reminder, this commentary was dedicated to one of my friends going through a bit of a difficult period at the moment, but without their enthusiasm and passion towards broadcasting and commentating, I would not have even considered this position without them. So, of course, this one was for you this evening, and if you are watching, you know who you are. But anyway, chat, that is all from me and from SSRL. We will be right back with Division 1 on the Monday in Japan, October 13th. And then, of course, October 14th, we'll host Division 2. Then it's off to the United States in Austin. First of 3 races there in the States. Then it's off to Mexico and Brazil to complete the first half of the SSRL Season 7 calendar. Then it's off to Italy, followed by a second visit to the States in Las Vegas. Then we're off to Qatar, followed by Abu Dhabi. Then a finale, maybe, in Miami as we complete the trifecta of races in the States. And then maybe a mystery Grand Prix to round out Season 7. But otherwise, I have been your commentator and broadcaster, Dave11. You can watch these races live at 7:30 p.m. BST on Monday and Tuesday. Division 1 Monday, Division 2 Tuesday, but otherwise you will see this on YouTube at a later point if you do want to rewatch, or you're seeing it for the first time here. But otherwise, that is all from me for tonight. Division 1 will be back with us next week, and Andy looking to recover from his DNF from last week, but maybe there is more to that DNF. Maybe that will be a start of a troublesome period for the current world champion in Division 1, but for Division 2, it is all up in the air. Quincy, for the second week in a row, finishes in second place. Can he convert next week into a win and be our third different winner in Division 2? Lots to unpack there. And yeah, no, not really much else to say, is there? From wherever you may be in the world, we do wish you a very good morning, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. From the admins, the stewards, and the drivers, we thank you for watching, and we thank them for putting on the show every week. See you next week. Bye for now.